I'm ChosenArchitect, and today we are starting All the Mods 9 to the sky. Oh, and you heard me right. We are jumping into all the mods, but it is the Skyblock version, which means we have a couple of islands to pick from. So to get this party started, we just need to read a couple of signs, and it tells me to just do /skyblock GUI, but it also tells me not to build here. Don't tell me what to do. But anyways, I am going to do the /skyblock GUI. And that allows me to create a team. So Chosen's Island, I think, is going to be the best choice here. And then we have a couple of different choices. I'm going to show you a preview of those. This one is the Cozy Cottage. It is kind of nice looking and already comes equipped with quite a few things, such as water and farm animals, and even just crops ready to go. Now, the next one is called Anarchy. This one just being a tree on some dirt, well, with a piece of bedrock underneath. A very challenging start. The next on the list is going to be the classical one, which is essentially the same as the last one being Anarchy, but it just has a few more torches and then also has a bit more dirt. And then as of right now, last but not least, is the Dire Wolf, which is essentially a 9x9 setup with a tree and some dirt ready to go. Very, very nostalgic. I think for me getting started, one of the best starting islands, even if I'm going to completely change this whole thing, is probably going to be the Cozy Cottage. And I think the reason being is, well, this place is just beautiful. So as soon as we get into our world, we already have a bed, we already have some places to sit, I can chat with you and hang out. It's all great. Oh, by the way, I wanted to mention that I do have a Discord. You can find it linked down in the description below, or you can go to discord.gg/ChosenArchitect, and that's a quick way to get there. I have a lot of people willing to help out in your journey through modded Minecraft. So if you are having troubles in Minecraft or modded Minecraft in general, and you need some help, be sure to check it out. We have tons of people over there who are willing to help, including myself, definitely. So if that's something you're looking for, yeah, I look forward to seeing you over there. All right, on with the video. So with sleeping out of the way, we have a lot of work ahead of us. Here's our tree, and well, if you've played any Skyblock in modded Minecraft, well, you may be well acquainted with the things that are about to happen. But before I fully get started, let me show you a few tips. To just make sure that you're guaranteed a sapling, your best bet is to probably take this in here. I think we have a crafting table. Maybe we actually don't. We need to take a couple of logs. So just by breaking 2 of these logs, we should be able to get ourselves a crook. So if I make a crafting table, which is going to be used quite a bit, so I might as well add it to our campfire out here. Let's put it right there. We can go ahead and craft this into some sticks. I'm already getting ahead of myself. Some sticks. And then we can put those into crook form. So the crook is going to be essential because we can hold down the grave key or the tilde key, which is underneath your escape key typically. By default, you can go ahead and use that to vein mine all of the leaves with the crook. And notice I got 7 saplings out of that. That is going to be your best bet for not only getting saplings, but also getting something else that we are definitely going to need to progress. Now, when it comes to growing trees in this pack, oh, you can twerk. But notice it also grows everything else. So for now, I'm just going to go ahead and remove some of these, even though they're nice and pretty. They're just going to spam a bunch of items. Now that's just the basics, but there's a lot more explained in the quest book. If you go up here in your inventory to the top left, you can open your quest, or you can actually assign a hotkey to it inside of your keybinds. I like to set mine to Z, but this allows me to open this up on demand. And it says right here, welcome to All the Mods 9, now in the sky. And we actually get gifted a quest book, which is nice. So you could use it to open it from your inventory if you want. I recommend the hotkey. And we get a little bit of experience. And it talks about the main quest line and getting started. So if I go ahead and take those, it's going to be very nice. Now, there's a couple of other tips like the bounty board. We have the tips and tricks and the all the modium section, which looks very interesting. But the main thing we need to stay focused on is the bright getting started section. And if you hold down control, you can actually scroll wheel back out of this if this is typically too big for you. And so we've already jumped ahead. You can see right here. So we just need to, I think, accept the getting started section, and we get given some steak, which is nice. And there's also a head start. So I think right now, I'm going to disregard this. This might be useful later on, but if you want to just jump ahead a little bit and get yourself lava and ice right away to start getting cobble, you have every right to do that. And then there's also an emergency sapling, which you can renewably get. But getting the logs, which we've already technically done, so there we go. But here's where things get interesting. We need to get string. We need to start working our way towards getting our meshes set up. And yes, this does have a ex nihilo type mod, and is how you're actually going to progress. I will say, however, that's probably not going to last all that long, because manual sieving will definitely see its way out before long. And that's because we will soon have the ability to automate all of the sieving process. Now, I do want to explore my island a little bit because I haven't really taken a big peek at this, but we have some chickens, we have sheep right away, some cows, and they're in pairs, and then my favorite, the adorable piggo. Oh, you're so cute. There's also a starbuncle back here, and there's a horse. And there's even a swing that I want to immediately modify by placing this on it. Yes, now it feels much more realistic. Now, getting started with some tools just require me to, well, hold down shift and right-click the ground. And with an empty hand, I should be able to grab a bunch of different pebbles of different types. And according to the quest, we have a 50% chance of getting cobble every time, where the other 50% is going to be a randomization of those other materials. And because I love giving you guys tons of tips, if you hit K on, for example, this stack of pebbles right here, it will actually craft them immediately using your crafting grid right here. But another little tip is if your inventory is completely filled with pebbles, of course it will be in the future, and you have multiple stacks of things, what you can actually do is hold down Control and K, or Shift and K actually, Shift and K, and that will take all stacks out of your inventory that are of the same type, and will craft them into their corresponding part. Now, aside from the cobble and all of this, we still need to get silkworms from the trees, and it's apparently a 1% chance to get it from a leaf. So, I mean, out of 100 leaf blocks, you technically should be able to get them, so that is something to kind of keep in mind. I still haven't gotten one yet, gone through a couple of trees, but look at there. This looks edible. Nice. We got ourselves a cute little silkworm. And this thing is going to be super helpful because on our next tree, what I can do, hopefully it's a big tree, we can go ahead and place it on here. Now, this is going to take a little bit of time, but that is going to slowly but surely infest that leaf, and it's going to start to infest the other ones, and before you know it, we are going to have an entire tree that is infested. And honestly, bagworms are so nasty. They really are. IRL, they're nasty, but in this case, they're useful, and so we need all the string we can get from them. And now with the entire tree infested, well, we can go ahead and vein mine all of this with our crook, and we get ourselves a bit of string, which gets us even closer to getting ourselves some meshes. Now, you may have noticed a couple of things in my inventory, one being a watering can, which I guess you could use to technically grow crops, even though you can definitely shift near them or torque near them. And then I also have an ability bottle. Now, I don't know if the ability bottle works or you get one every time you spawn in, because in loading all of those maps on the initial spawn in, I got this one maybe out of the 3, like 2 times out of the 4 total islands. So I don't know if this is like a random thing that you get on join, but it is the bone mealer one that I ended up getting, which I'm assuming if I was to activate it, if I had enough XP, I would basically turn the ability on, and it says a bone meal the area. So if I turn that on right now, I guess that activates, or maybe I have to shift to activate it. I have no idea. Maybe this is actually what's causing me to bone meal everything. I honestly don't know. Now, I typically like to set small goals for myself, but today is going to be a little bit different, as my intentions are to actually cover the entirety of the Getting Started chapter, in at least the best way I can. So with all of this simple stuff out of the way, it's now time to dive into the next part, and that is going from cobblestone into potentially the hammer. We need materials to sieve before we, well, effectively get our sieve up and running. And some questionable things to note that you can do: if you do have a mouse that does allow for macros, you can technically farm for a lot of cobblestone very quickly by having some ability to spam click the ground. And a little bit of a tip if you are doing this: if you do have this set up and you only want to pick up stone, well, just kind of take and drag stone to only go in your inventory. That way, whenever you do walk over this giant pile of cobble, you will only pick up the cobble, as you can see here. It's kind of awesome. For once, there's a use for a macro. And it's not one that bothers me one bit, because I always find that the limitation on collecting these resources by just time gaining you by right-clicking has always been just a painful mechanic. Now, I'm glad they give you a bit of space here, which is going to allow me to place in some chests on both sides, because the thing in here is going to become the sifting room. And sifting we're about to do. Now that we have made this stone hammer, we also should be able to make a wand, which is going to allow us to place our blocks in a little bit more easy. And I believe we can also just immediately jump ahead, as it does show the compressed blocks right here, and it also shows a compressed hammer, which means not only can we, well, convert cobble immediately by doing this and turning it into gravel, we can actually compress this by using that K mechanic, or whenever you do craft, you can actually hit tab to reload your prior craft. And so you can craft all of these down if you want. But I do want to save a little bit, because I think all we need for this is technically 9 hammers. And so if we craft up 9 of these hammers, we should be able to convert this into a larger hammer, or a compressed version, just like this. Very nice. And so that now compressed cobble can then be placed down, and we can vein mine it to get us all of that compressed versions back. Now, it does seem like we go from cobble to gravel to sand and then into dust. And something to keep in mind, the compressed hammer does not actually take the base form, and it doesn't actually convert it down. So you'd still need a regular hammer if you're going to do like the occasional one every now and then. Well, I think my next step is to make the oak sieves, and I'm going to make 9 of them for right now. But I think this can actually go a bit further than a 3x3. I don't actually know if it mentions it in the quest. Yeah, I can go up to a 5x5 space. So yeah, that's a lot of them, 25. And believe it or not, 25 does go a long way. So if you're wanting to do this very quickly, making 9 is fine. Getting a 3x3 is a starting point, but jumping up to that 5x5 is a game changer. Now, even though I may have enough of these, I still don't have enough mesh, so I am still going to need to gather a few more of the string. So it looks like I'm back to farming some trees, which is a good thing because I'm sort of out of them. And oh boy, a tree like this will definitely help. These two are combined together, and I wonder, can I go ahead and extend it even further? I just want to get as many trees in this grouping as possible to hopefully allow that one to spread. Now, while I'm working on getting all of this string and collecting all of this, I might as well also get a little bit of water produced. And so this is where an oak crucible comes into play. Now, the best way to farm this is via a shear and shearing leaves. But to get a shear, we have to have flint. And one of the easiest ways to get flint is to use a cutting board. And, well, probably not on the floor, because that's a dirty place. We can go ahead and put a cutting board over here, and we can use a shovel with some gravel from the Farmer's Delight cutting board, believe it or not, to infinitely farm flint. So I believe if we have the shovel in our offhand and we put this here, we can just infinitely farm this. And notice flint gets spit out, but we actually don't run out of our material. So the only thing we're utilizing in this operation is the durability on our shovel. And so we can keep doing this operation over and over again for as much flint as we possibly could ever want. And apparently, whenever our shovel runs out, it doesn't actually break fully. We actually can just repair it with another piece of cobble and continue on. So now with my flint shears, I can grow a few trees over here, and I can collect those leaves specifically for making water. So I'm going to place those in here. And it doesn't really need anything, just needs to sort of set here with a little bit of time and should produce this. And yes, I know I have a source block of water up here, but it's only one. And technically we need 2 sources of water to make it infinite. So now with water being produced and our sieves all set up and ready to go, it's time to take a look at that quest. And it says, get ready, lots of sieving incoming. And so, I guess we're off. Notice, by the way, it says Ultimine for fast mining and a hammer, and perhaps get an auto clicker ready. Now, it says that you can use Ultimine for this, but I do know up to the 5x5, it just works like this. So yeah, we should be able to sieve for up to a 5x5, but maybe with the Ultimine, it actually lets you sieve even more meshes than that. By the way, when I say Ultimine, it is actually the button that is underneath your escape. The same key that we use to vein mine everything. So if you hear me call it vein mine, I'm probably referring to the mod that is actually called FTB Ultimine. And so it begins. Look at that. Oh, gorgeous, beautiful. Tons and tons of stone being generated. And it's all mine for the crushing. Now, some more helpful tips is to go ahead and get yourself about 64 of these compressed blocks, and then use yourself a wand to build up. And before you know it, you're going to have this entire area done, and you can vein mine the whole thing. Taking a little bit of damage is definitely worth it, as this is a lot of material to sift through. Now, it did mention using an auto clicker on this, and well, you can do that. So yes, if you have a auto clicker that can click really fast, it is recommended to hold down Ultimine and do that, and it should auto refill for you. Or at least so it looks like. Well, until your hand runs out of the material. But later on, there's definitely a way to get around that. So now after a little bit of sieving, and I've not really done much at all, I can make myself a dank. And this is going to give me the ability to store items and then also allow me to pick them up. It can also compress items. For example, cobble. We can actually compress that down, which would be pretty cool. And another cool thing with this is we can void. So if we just want cobble from doing that clicking, we can set this up to void pickup. And so it will void, or should void, anything that is overflow and does not meet the filter. So essentially what you want to do is you want to put all of the pebbles that are not the stone pebbles inside of your tank, and then make sure it is set, and make sure you have your frequency locked and it's set to void pickup. That way, whenever you are walking up to pick up all of the junk now, it's a little bit easier because it all goes into the tank and we're left with nothing but the stone in our inventory. Now, the rest of the sieving operations kind of goes in a process of, well, sieving for the materials and then upgrading the mesh to the next tier. For example, going from the string to the flint, and then also going from the flint to the iron and to the gold, and so on and so forth. Now, it does say that some meshes do have certain drops that are only in higher tiers, and so it is best to stay at certain tiers for certain materials. So it's something we'll have to work out as we get to that point. Remember our flint thing from earlier? Oh yes, you can use a hotkey for this too to get through quite a bit. But notice it is going to dwindle down the shovel. So it is something to note. And I'm going to need a bunch of flint to upgrade these, and then we're going to worry about how we're going to smelt these chunks. So now with my meshes upgraded to flint, let's talk about smelting up the materials. Now by default, a furnace is going to be the way to go, but I do want to show you that we can immediately upgrade our furnace to something way, way better. So just for right now, we really just need to smelt up some cobblestone. So let's do for right now 16 cobblestone, and I'm going to get this all smelted up because we're going to need the cobblestone into stone for our furnace upgrade. And now with a little bit of stone, what we can actually make as an upgrade is going to be this very fancy crude furnace. And the thing that the crude furnace does is it just basically limits or basically halves the amount of XP that we get from our smelting operations. But instead, what it does is it doubles the rate that it smelts things. So this whole operation can actually be doubled now, whereas over here, it was going really, really slow. And so now every smelting operation should be able to be doubled in here. Just another little tip to speed things along. Now keep in mind, this is just early game, as there are better furnaces that we will definitely get to as we progress through this. Now, aside from sieving, we can also make ourselves some barrels. This is the perfect example because it is currently raining right now. And this is another way that we can actually get water is via the rain inside of here. And over time, this is going to fill up. But I don't necessarily want to use these barrels in this particular way. Instead, what I want to do is I want to use these barrels to make more dirt. Now we have dirt on our island, but we can actually place down like organic materials, for example, like leaves and such in here. And this is another way that we should be able to get dirt. And there we go. After a little bit, we now have the dirt being processed. So yes, the leaves do go in here. Just was a little bit of lag, but there we go. And nice. These barrels have far more uses than just making dirt, because we can do several other things with them. So as soon as we have this water, we should be able to make ourselves some slime, it looks like. And it says, this is going to be, by the way, one of the easiest slime recipes that I've ever seen. Apparently, we can just place water in there and mix it with a little bit of milk. Oh, and as soon as we have all of that, we have ourselves access to slime, and we already have cows just ready to be milked over there. Now these recipes for the chunks just remind me of good old classic Skyblocks, where they're not the actual thing that gets sort of smelted immediately. Instead, we actually turn them into the regular ore variant. So they get turned into the raw ore itself, and then that can actually be broken down. Very interesting on this one. That's kind of cool. And so we should be able to take this, I believe, and throw it over here. For right now, I'm kind of ran out of coal, so I'm going to place this in. And will this go in here? So it does not. So the crude furnaces, while they are great for smelting anything that cannot be smoked and cannot be blasted, they unfortunately, cannot blast things. So that's why I've been working on actually making the blast furnaces. So regular blast furnaces from Minecraft will smelt things a bit faster. You'll smelt it twice as fast, but these work for anything else. Now at this point, I have myself 3 iron, and this is a game changer because this allows me to make a bucket. So I can now scoop out my 2 buckets of water, and this should give us a nice little infinite water pool. And so back here, I am going to get that placed in just like this. And we will now have unlimited water. And this is great because we are going to need that unlimited water in order to fill these barrels. And this is going to allow us to place in dust and get clay in return. So now we have ourselves some clay, and this brings us into the production of the crucibles, which is going to allow us to make our lava. And it's going to eventually allow us to fully automate our cobble starting. So now we won't have to hopefully grind out the cobble that way anymore. I mean, because to be fair, this is about all of the mods, not about how to start a skyblock. Let's be fair. So I just need to sieve up a little bit of the dust, and there we go. We get ourselves bone meal, and bone meal is one of the only things that we need in order to get started with production of lava. So if you've seen something interesting pop up that we sieved up, that's because Skyblock is actually in here, which is part decorative and functional mod. And we also ended up getting ourselves some Force. That's right, Forcecraft is in here, and that means early access to Silk Touch tools. And of course, everyone's favorite, Ender.io, Applied Logistics, and also Refined Storage is in here. However, I will note, this will probably be mostly Applied Energistics whenever we get to that point, mainly because all of the add-on mods that are available for Applied Energistics, and not to mention, there is Project E in this pack. So Project E and Applied Energistics have the integration in this pack, whereas Refined Storage does not. So that is definitely a big contributor to my decision there. And of course, something else to note, well, in all the mods 9, pretty much my entire playthrough was built around Refined Storage, so why not change it up a bit? And so all we need now is to make a little bit of porcelain, and 7, but I'm going to do 14 because I like to make 2 of these, at least to get started. And then we just need to cook them. So I'm going to see, they should be able to cook in here. Yes, and they work twice as fast. So you see, the crude furnaces weren't a waste to me. They are going to be very useful for things that just don't go into a blast furnace or a smoker. And for now, I think I'm going to utilize my campfires over here. And this is going to be some of the best heating options that I have right now. It does want me to make this, or actually, no, it doesn't. It just kind of recommends it. Ooh, I like that. So we just checked that off, and it basically tells us we can look at the heat sources, and there's a bunch of different heat sources. You can just hit U while hovering over the porcelain crucible to see what all of them are. Now, I'm going to go ahead and I think just click this in, and I should be able to fill this up with some cobble. Same on this side. And this is just going to make sure that we can at least get 2 buckets of lava, you know, off of the same amount of time. And so it's typically best to sort of rush this operation, as it does take a bit longer than any of the other operations. So getting lava is definitely going to take some time. And while that's doing its thing and cooking up, you know, taking some time to cook, we can actually start sieving some more. Now, as I was doing some hammering, yeah, you can just mass repair your hammer. It took 3 cobblestone to repair my stone hammer, which is kind of wild, honestly. But there we go. Look at that. Tons of good stuff. And I just got my first diamonds from sieving all of that gravel. Look at that. Ah, man, always love the diamond in the first episode. Now I'm cooking up some copper right now because I need a couple of blocks of copper here. And the 2 blocks of copper, I'm able to use it to, believe it or not, make an all the mods ore hammer, which will allow me to make and double my output on my raw ore. So we place it down and we can fortune, and then we can also get raw ore later on, or of course once we have fortune later on, but we can use it right now to get double the amount that we currently have. So that is beautiful, and that works for everything. So for example, I place down my gold and then I mine it all up, and let's just assume we have fortune. Of course, I need an iron pick for that, but let's just assume we have fortune, right? We fortune that, and then we use the hammer, and later on we'll have platinum and stuff like that to make this. But oh, we just get so many materials, and I definitely need iron cooking right now, because iron is going to be the one thing that speeds this whole process up. In the meantime, I might as well acquire some new hardware. There we go. So now I have my pick, and I can now mine up some gold, which, hint hint, gold is going to be the fundamental material for starting out in this pack. And I will be doing a bit more explaining in future episodes, but believe me when I say it is going to be needed. Lots of it. So perfect. After gathering about 8 of the iron, I can now upgrade our furnace to the next tier. So now we have an iron furnace, which will be a bit faster at processing our material. You can see, there we go. And of course, as we continue progressing up in the tiers of furnaces, they're going to get faster and faster. And that is going to be definitely necessary for speeding up our processes. Now, with that all out of the way, let's talk a little bit more about how these oak barrels work. And now I've already covered them a little bit, but there's a few things that we can actually do. We can sieve some grass and get ourselves some mycelium spores, and we can use that to convert dirt underneath our barrel. And what this will allow us to do is to start working our way into the soul sand, into it looks like all kinds of different materials, blackstone and also netherrack. So this is how we're going to be able to produce witch water. So now, after sifting some of the spores and then getting them ready to go, I can place down some dirt and hit it with that. That's going to turn it into mycelium. And then if I put a barrel on here and we fill it up with water, like I said, this turns into witch water, given a little bit of time. And that witch water will later allow us to automate all of these resources here, but it's going to take some time. Also, witch water has some other interesting properties. And now for our lava that we've been working on, the stone barrel has the ability to, for example, make that netherrack and all that material. But we do need witch water with lava on the top, I believe, and that gets consumed, the lava does, and that produces the netherrack and so on and so forth. Now, I definitely want to test out the slime. So let's go ahead and grab a bucket of milk from one of our beautiful cows over here. And let's see, slime is important in a lot of modded recipes. Oh, and that's just absolutely amazing being able to get that so early on. And same goes for getting ourselves an entire bucket of witch water, in which I will store for later. And now for the thing that changes the game moving forward. Getting ourselves our lava and then using it to make a cobblestone generator, essentially allowing us to have infinite sieving materials. And this right here basically prepares us for the future. And I am super excited for what that has to offer. There's going to be a lot of cool things that we're going to be able to do in this pack, and a lot of cool things we can automate. Just got to get past this early resource generation part. And then we can really start to spread our wings and really dive into all of the mods, which I'm assuming is why the start to this is just so nice and fast paced. So with all that, we can craft this all together and boop. There we go, our first cobble gen. Now it does mention right here infinite lava, and that is a part of our crucible system, but we also could get actual infinite lava that doesn't even require anything just from the dripstone that we were actually given using a vanilla mechanic. However, you do need cauldrons, and of course cauldrons do cost iron, so I wouldn't say it's a early game option. But now after that, I think I have everything needed. Just need some cobble, right? And we can go all the way up to diamond tier, and I do believe I have all of the lava needed to do this as well. So we can go to cobble gin tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, and all the way to max tier 5. There we go. And then one of the best ways to set this up is by placing it down, and it will auto send to the inventory above it. But for example, the cobble drawers, or for the simple compact drawers, you do have to put the item in first that you want it to start compacting. And as soon as we do this, you're going to notice how quickly that compacting drawer is filling up. And all of these, we can pull out a stack and we can start to sort of place them all down and continue mining them. That is the part that is fantastic about having this massively fast cobble generator. I started to sound like an announcer there for a minute. What's wrong with me? Now, for those of you all who made it to the end of today's episode, there is something special that I want to show you that you can definitely make. And you've probably already sorted this out if you're familiar with Project E, but because Project E is in here and it is kind of limited in its functionality, we only have so many tools available to us, but we might as well utilize the ones we have. For example, the repair talisman. So to make the repair talisman and keep this on us to just instantly start to repair all of our tools, well, it's as simple as the way you see me just craft it. It is very, very simple to craft, and the repair talisman will keep all of our tools that we have on us nice and repaired. And I'm hoping that it will actually repair our hammer. I don't know. I mean, it should once all of this starts processing. I mean, there's a possibility. If it does, that would be amazing. But judging from the looks of it, it apparently doesn't, which is a bummer, but it does keep all of our other tools repaired, including our compressed stone hammer. I think down the road, this is just going to be a nice little thing to have on us. Now, in our quest, we are almost home free. Now, we still have some meshes to sort of run through, which I will definitely work on those over time, but we're about to hit the next tier of power, and that might make getting these meshes a little bit easier as we're going to start working our way towards automation. But we got to make ourselves a coal generator, so let's go ahead and grab that real quick. It's honestly very simple. This is from RF Tools, and voila, we now have ourselves a coal generator, and we just feed that coal, and that's going to produce power for us. So just by putting this in here, we now dive a little bit into a power system, and it's generating 60 RF per tick, or power per tick, because it seems like nowadays every single mod has its own way of defining power. But I mean, for the most part, power per tick seems to work. At least that's a terminology I'm trying to push through. But all we have to do now to complete this chapter is, well, do that. And it is basically done. Now there is another food source section over here, and that just requires us to take some wheat from our wheat farm. And by the way, you can hold down your ore excavate key, and yes, you can harvest all of this. So ore excavate key, and bam, we now have ourselves some wheat. And apparently one of the best early game foods is by taking your bread and cooking it. So we can take our bread and we can turn this into toast. And apparently toast is very tasty. So I've heard. I may not or may be a consumer of the said toast IRL, especially with like some butter and some cinnamon. Oh, it's delicious. But there we go. Toast is now complete. And I think it says I am missing your mom. So we definitely need to get that made up as soon as possible. And isn't she beautiful? Look at that. All right, so with that, I think we're good. We have our toast, and last but not least, we just need to check that off. And so the whole chapter pretty much complete, aside from, well, upgrading our meshes, which are just going to take a little bit of grinding. But with that, I think it's the end of today's episode, and I hope you have enjoyed. If you have, be sure to click the subscribe button if you haven't already, and give this video a huge thumbs up. I hope you're looking forward to the next episode, as there's going to be several of these videos, as this pack also continues to update along the way. And with that, it's now time for me to thank the amazing supporter of today's video. And that amazing thanks is going to go out to Smith at ya. Thank you so much, by the way, for your amazing support by choosing to support me over on the Discord by becoming a Discord premium member and supporting me in one of the best ways possible. And of course, I thank all of my supporters, and this is the least that I can do, honestly. And I really do appreciate you guys for choosing to support me in a financial way, basically allowing me to not need to run ads embedded into the video. So if that's something you appreciate, be sure to check out the Discord link down in the description below. There are tons of perks that come with supporting, so if that's something you're interested in, definitely check it out. But you don't have to be a supporter to join the Discord. We have a lot of awesome things over there, including access to all kinds of help. So if you're struggling with anything in the pack, be sure to ask over there, and I'm sure somebody is willing to help you. And if you would like to watch live, be sure to check me out as well over on Twitch, twitch.tv/ChosenArchitect. You can find me live most days through the week. Of course, check my schedule out over there, and I look forward to seeing you. And I also look forward to seeing you in the next episode. So comment down below what you did enjoy about this video, and if you have any other helpful tips that you would love to share with others, of course, share them down below. And I will see you in the next one, and as always, thanks for watching. Bye!